wife invited me to an important business dinner with a potential Chinese partner. I smiled, nodded, and played the role of the supportive husband perfectly. What she didn't know was that I understood every single word of Mandarin. And when I heard what she told that client about me, everything changed forever. But let me start from the beginning. My name is Michael, and for 14 years I thought I had a solid marriage. Not perfect, but solid enough. My wife, Rebecca, worked as a senior director at a software company in Austin. I worked as a project manager at a mid-sized consulting firm. Nothing flashy, but I enjoyed it. We lived in a comfortable house in the suburbs, took one vacation a year, and from the outside, we probably looked like we had it all together. But somewhere along the way, things had shifted. I couldn't pinpoint exactly when it started. Maybe it was when Rebecca got her promotion 4 years ago. Maybe it was gradual, so slow I didn't notice until I was already living in a different marriage than the one I thought I had. Rebecca became busier, more driven. At least that's what she told me. She worked late, traveled for conferences, and when she came home, she was either on her laptop or too exhausted to talk. Our conversations became transactional. Did you schedule the car maintenance? Don't forget we have brunch with the Millers on Sunday. Can you handle calling the plumber? I don't have time. I told myself this was normal. This was what happened after more than a decade of marriage. The spark fades, the routine takes over, and you just make it work. I pushed down the hollow feeling that crept in during quiet evenings when she was locked in her home office, and I sat alone, scrolling through my phone. About 2 years ago, I stumbled onto something that changed everything. I was browsing online one restless night when an advertisement appeared for a free trial of a language learning platform, Mandarin Chinese. I'd taken 2 semesters of it back in college, back when I was a different person with different aspirations. I'd loved it. The complexity, the beauty, the way it opened up an entirely different worldview. But then, I met Rebecca, got married, started working, and that dream got filed away in the mental drawer labeled Impractical Hobbies from Your 20s. That night, lying in bed while Rebecca typed away on her laptop beside me, I downloaded the app, just out of curiosity, just to see if I remembered anything. I remembered more than I expected. The characters came back easily, then the tones. Within weeks, I was completely hooked. Every evening, while Rebecca worked late or watched her industry podcasts, I would sit at the dining table with my headphones in, working through lessons. I subscribed to language exchange apps, started watching Chinese dramas with subtitles, then eventually without them. I didn't tell Rebecca. Not because I was hiding it exactly, but because I'd learned not to share things she would brush off. 4 years earlier, I'd mentioned wanting to take a woodworking class. She'd laughed, not cruelly, but in that way that made me feel foolish. Michael, you can barely hang a picture frame straight. You don't need a class for a hobby you'll never pursue. Besides, when would you even have time? After that, I learned to keep my interests private. It was easier than defending them. So Mandarin became my secret, my private world. And I excelled at it. Genuinely excelled. I practiced every single day, sometimes for 3 or 4 hours. I video chatted with tutors online, joined virtual study groups, even started reading intermediate novels. By the time 18 months had passed, I could understand conversational Mandarin quite fluently. Not perfectly, but well enough to follow television shows, understand podcasts, and hold substantial conversations with my tutors. It felt like reclaiming a piece of myself I'd abandoned. Every new character I learned, every grammar pattern I mastered, felt like evidence that I was still capable of growth, still someone beyond just Rebecca's husband. Then one evening in early October, Rebecca came home earlier than usual. She actually seemed energized, alive in a way I hadn't seen in months. "Michael, excellent news," she said, dropping her briefcase on the kitchen counter where I was making dinner. "We're on the verge of finalizing a partnership with a Chinese tech firm. This could be massive for us. The founder is visiting next week, and I'm taking her to dinner at Jade Garden. You'll need to come." I looked up from the vegetables I was chopping. "Me? To a business dinner?" "Yes. Ms. Chen specifically asked if I was married. Chinese business culture. They value knowing you're stable, family-oriented. It's good for appearances." She opened a bottle of sparkling water, poured herself a glass. "You'll just need to look presentable, smile, be charming. You know, the usual." Something about the way she said "the usual" irritated me, but I pushed it aside. "Sure, of course. When?" "Next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Wear that charcoal suit, the one with the narrow lapels. Professional, but approachable." "And Michael?" She turned to look at me directly for the first time that evening. "Chen doesn't speak much English. I'll be handling most of the conversation in Mandarin. You'll probably be fairly bored, but just smile through it, okay?" My heart jumped. "You speak Mandarin?" "Picked it up working with our Shanghai office over the years. I'm quite fluent now." There was an unmistakable pride in her voice. "It's one of the reasons they're considering me for the vice president role. Not many executives here can negotiate in Mandarin." She didn't ask if I spoke it, didn't wonder if I might have any knowledge or interest. Why would she? In her mind, I was just the husband who would smile and look presentable while the important people talked. I turned back to my cutting board, my hands moving on autopilot. "That sounds great, honey. I'll be there." After she left the room, I stood at the counter, my mind racing. An opportunity had just landed in my lap. A chance to actually understand a conversation Rebecca thought was private. To hear how she really spoke, how she presented herself, how she talked about our life when she thought I couldn't understand. Part of me felt guilty for even thinking this way, but a bigger part of me, the part that felt increasingly invisible in my own marriage, wanted to know, needed to know. The week dragged by. I spent every spare moment refreshing my business Mandarin vocabulary, practicing formal speech patterns, making sure I'd be able to follow a professional conversation. I didn't know what I expected to hear, maybe nothing significant. Maybe I was overthinking everything, being paranoid, looking for problems that weren't there. Wednesday arrived. I wore the charcoal suit as requested, paired it with a conservative tie and polished shoes. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw exactly what Rebecca wanted. A presentable husband who wouldn't embarrass her in front of important clients. Hey, if you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Now, back to what happened next. The restaurant was in downtown Austin, elegant and expensive, the kind of place with a reservation list weeks long. Rebecca had used the company account to secure a table. We arrived 20 minutes early. Rebecca checked her appearance in a compact mirror, adjusted her already perfect blazer. "Remember," she said as we walked in, "just be pleasant. Don't try to participate in the business discussion. If Ms. Chen addresses you in English, keep your responses brief. We need her focused on the partnership, not distracted by small talk." I nodded, swallowing the bitter taste in my mouth. Ms. Chen was already seated when we arrived. She stood to greet us, a woman in her late 40s with sharp eyes and an impeccably tailored navy suit. Rebecca bowed slightly. I followed her lead. They exchanged greetings in Mandarin, formal and respectful. I smiled, looking appropriately confused, and slid into the chair Rebecca gestured toward. The conversation began in English, surface-level pleasantries. Ms. Chen complimented the restaurant selection, mentioned her hotel, asked if this was our first time hosting international partners. Her English was actually quite good, better than Rebecca had suggested, just lightly accented. Then, As appetizers arrived, they naturally transitioned into Mandarin. Rebecca's fluency was impressive, I had to admit. She spoke smoothly, confidently, clearly comfortable in the language. They discussed revenue projections, market penetration strategies, technical infrastructure. I sat quietly, sipping water, occasionally smiling when they glanced my way, playing my role. Then Ms. Chen turned slightly toward me, said something in Mandarin that I caught, a polite inquiry about what I did professionally. Rebecca answered for me before I could even pretend not to understand. In Mandarin, she said, "Oh, Michael works in project management, but it's just a consulting firm, nothing serious. More of a way to stay occupied, really, to keep him busy. He mainly takes care of our home and handles the domestic responsibilities." I kept my face neutral, but inside, something twisted sharply. A way to stay occupied? I'd worked in project management for 16 years, had led successful initiatives, built strong client relationships. But she'd just dismissed my entire career as a distraction to keep me busy. Ms. Chen nodded politely and didn't press further. The dinner continued. Multiple courses arrived, each beautifully presented. I ate slowly, stayed quiet, and listened. Really listened. Rebecca was different in Mandarin, more aggressive, more self-promoting. She exaggerated her role in company successes, took credit for team achievements, painted herself as more central to the organization's growth than she actually was. It wasn't egregious, but it was noticeable. The Rebecca speaking Mandarin was a slightly inflated version of the Rebecca I knew. Then the conversation shifted. Ms. Chen mentioned something about work-life integration, about the importance of family support in demanding careers. Rebecca laughed, a sound that made my stomach clench. "To be honest," Rebecca said in Mandarin, and I could hear the casual dismissiveness in her tone, "my husband doesn't really understand the corporate world. He's content with his simple life. I handle all the significant decisions, the finances, the career strategy. He's just there for appearance, really. Keeps the house running, looks good at events like this. It works well for me, because I don't have to worry about a spouse who demands too much attention or has his own ambitions getting in the way." I gripped my water glass so tightly I thought it might shatter. Ms. Chen made a non-committal sound. I watched her face, saw a flicker of something. Discomfort, perhaps. But she didn't challenge Rebecca. Instead, she changed the subject slightly, asking about Rebecca's long-term objectives. "The VP position is essentially mine," Rebecca continued in Mandarin. "And after that, I'm targeting C-suite within 6 years. I've been positioning myself strategically, cultivating the right relationships. My husband doesn't know this yet, but I've been restructuring some assets, setting up some international accounts. Just smart financial planning. If my career requires relocating or making significant changes, I need the flexibility to move quickly without being constrained by joint accounts and needing his signature on everything." My blood ran cold. International accounts? Restructuring assets without telling me? I sat there smiling blandly while my wife casually revealed financial maneuvers that sounded very much like she was preparing for a future that didn't include me, or at least one where I wouldn't have access to marital funds. But she wasn't finished. Ms. Chen asked something about the stress of Rebecca's position, whether she had ways to manage it. Rebecca's laugh was ugly. "I have my outlets. There's someone at work, Ryan. He's in business development. We've been involved for about 8 months now. My husband has no idea. Honestly, it's been beneficial for me. Ryan understands my world, my ambitions. He's ambitious too. We strategize together, make plans. It's refreshing after coming home to someone who can't discuss anything more complex than what's for dinner." I sat perfectly still. My face felt frozen. Inside, I was shattering into 1,000 pieces. But years of learning to be accommodating and quiet and pleasant kept me in my chair, kept the smile on my face, kept my hands from shaking visibly. An affair. International accounts. Dismissing me as too simple to understand her world, calling my career a distraction, reducing me to a decorative object who managed the house and looked presentable. 14 years of marriage, and this was how she saw me. This was what she said when she thought I couldn't understand. Ms. Chen was definitely uncomfortable now. I could see it in the way she shifted, the way she redirected the conversation back to neutral business topics. She was too polite to call Rebecca out, but her responses became more clipped, more formal. The dinner ended. We said our goodbyes in the restaurant entrance. Ms. Chen bowed to me, said in careful English, "It was a pleasure meeting you, Mr. Michael. I wish you well." Something in her eyes, a softness, made me wonder if she understood more than she'd revealed, if she'd been as disturbed by Rebecca's words as I was. The drive home was quiet. Rebecca seemed pleased with herself, humming along to the radio. "That went well," she said. "I think we're going to close this deal." Chen seemed impressed. "That's wonderful," I said, my voice sounding hollow to my own ears. At home, Rebecca kissed my cheek absently, told me she had reports to review, and disappeared into her office. I walked upstairs to our bedroom, closed the door, and stood in the silence. Then I pulled out my phone and did something I never thought I'd do. I called Marcus. Marcus had been my college roommate, my closest friend before life and distance and Rebecca's subtle discouragement of my friendships had pulled us apart. He'd become a family law attorney, had been through his own divorce 7 years ago. We'd reconnected on social media recently, exchanged a few messages, but I hadn't told him anything real about my life. "Michael?" he answered on the second ring, surprise in his voice. It was almost midnight. "Yeah," and my voice broke on that single word. "I need a lawyer." We talked for 3 hours. I told him everything. The dinner, the conversation in Mandarin, the international accounts, the affair, the years of feeling diminished and dismissed. He listened without interrupting, his legal mind clearly processing what I was telling him. "First," he said when I finished, "I need you to breathe. Can you do that for me?" I breathed. "Second, you need to understand that what she's doing with those international accounts could be illegal, definitely unethical. If she's concealing marital assets in anticipation of a divorce or just to maintain control, that's financial fraud. We can use that." "I don't have proof," I said. "It was just conversation. Did you record the dinner?" I felt stupid. No, I didn't think to. I was just trying to process what I was hearing. "That's all right. Here's what we're going to do. Don't confront her yet. I know you want to, but we need to be strategic. Starting tomorrow, you're going to gather documentation, bank statements, tax returns, any financial records you can access. Take photos, forward yourself emails, anything. If she's moving money, there will be a paper trail. We'll find it." "Marcus, I'm scared." "I know, buddy. But you're also intelligent and capable, and you just proved that by learning an entire language without her knowing. You can do this. You're not alone anymore." After we hung up, I sat on the edge of the bed and let myself feel everything I'd been holding back at the restaurant. Rage, betrayal, grief, fear. But underneath it all, something else was growing. A cold, clear determination. I wasn't going to be the supportive husband anymore. I wasn't going to be dismissed and diminished and cheated on. I was going to take back control of my life, even if it meant burning down everything I'd built to do it. The next morning, I called in sick to work. Rebecca barely noticed, just made a distracted acknowledgement as she left for the office. The moment her car pulled away, I started searching. If you're finding this story compelling, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Rebecca kept files in her home office, organized and meticulous. I found bank statements going back 4 years, tax returns, investment account information. I photographed everything with my phone, uploaded it all to a secure cloud drive Marcus had set up for me. And there it was. 3 accounts I'd never seen before, all showing regular transfers. $62,000 moved over the past 10 months to a bank in Singapore. Our joint savings had been slowly drained without my knowledge. I felt sick, but I kept photographing, kept documenting. Marcus had told me to be thorough, so I was thorough. I found emails, too, printed and filed away, correspondence about investment properties I didn't know we owned, or rather, that she owned. Everything was in her name only. And then I found the emails to Ryan. She'd been careless, printing some exchanges, probably to reference dates or figures. But the content was damning. Romantic, sexual, making plans for a future that clearly didn't include me. Once I've dealt with the Michael situation, one email read, "We can stop hiding." The Michael situation. That's what I'd become. A problem to be dealt with. I spent 7 weeks quietly gathering evidence, living with a woman I now saw clearly for the first time. Every smile was a lie. Every casual touch made my skin crawl. But I played the role. I cooked meals, asked about her day, pretended nothing had changed. Marcus was building the case. I met with him twice a week at his office, bringing new documentation, discussing strategy. We were going to file for divorce and simultaneously report her financial misconduct to her company's ethics board. The international accounts violated company policy. He'd discovered she could lose not just our marriage, but her career. "Are you sure you want to go this far?" Marcus asked me during one of our sessions. "The company piece will be nuclear. She'll lose everything." "She was already planning to leave me with nothing," I said. "She said it herself. She's been preparing for this. I'm just moving first." We decided on a Monday. Marcus filed the divorce papers Friday afternoon. Monday morning, I dressed for work as usual, but instead of going to my office, I went to Marcus's. Rebecca's HR department would receive our evidence package at 9 a.m. The divorce papers would be served to her at her office at 9:30. I sat in Marcus's conference room drinking coffee I couldn't taste, watching the clock. My phone was off. I didn't want to see her calls or texts when she realized what was happening. At 11, Marcus received confirmation. Papers served, evidence received. Rebecca's employer had immediately placed her on administrative leave pending investigation. "How do you feel?" Marcus asked. "Terrified," I admitted. "But right." I stayed at Marcus's that night. He had a spare bedroom, had already told me I could stay as long as I needed. He helped me draft emails to my own employer explaining I'd be taking leave for personal reasons. We ordered pizza, drank beer, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Rebecca tried calling 53 times that first day, left voicemails ranging from confused to angry to desperate. I didn't listen to them. Marcus did, documenting everything for the case. On Wednesday, escorted by Marcus and a police officer there just as a precaution, I went back to the house to collect my belongings. Rebecca was there. She looked terrible. Unwashed hair, wrinkled clothes, eyes bloodshot. "Michael, please," she started when she saw me. I held up my hand. "Don't. Just let me explain." "Explain what?" That you've been cheating on me? That you've been hiding money? That you called me too simple to understand your world? I heard every word at that dinner, Rebecca. Every single word. Her face went white. You don't speak Mandarin. I've been fluent for over 2 years. Funny how you never asked. Never wondered what I did with my time when you were too busy with work or Ryan. She sank into a chair. The company put me on leave. They're investigating. Michael, I could lose my job. That's not my problem anymore. I started walking toward the stairs, toward our bedroom, where I needed to pack. Wait, her voice was desperate. We can fix this. Marriage counseling. I'll end things with Ryan. We can work through this. I turned back to look at her. Really looked at her. This woman I'd spent 14 years with, who I'd loved, who I'd believed loved me. You don't want to fix this. You want to fix your career, your image, your financial situation. You're not sorry you hurt me. You're sorry you got caught. That's not true. At that dinner, you told Ms. Chen I was just for appearance, that I was too simple, too unambitious, that I was essentially a live-in house manager who looked good at events. Do you even remember saying that? Her silence was answer enough. I'm done being small for you, Rebecca. I'm done being the convenient husband who doesn't demand too much. File your counter motions if you want. Fight the divorce. But you're not going to win, and you're not getting away with hiding our assets. I spent 3 hours packing. She didn't try to stop me again, just sat in that chair staring at nothing. The divorce took 9 months. Texas law had certain waiting periods, and we spent those months negotiating the settlement. Rebecca's company investigation found sufficient evidence of ethical violations. They terminated her employment. She found another position eventually, but at a lower level, lower salary. The international accounts had to be disclosed and divided. The properties I didn't know about became part of the marital assets. In the end, I walked away with half of everything she'd tried to hide, plus spousal support for 4 years while I rebuilt my own career. But the best part, the thing I never saw coming, happened about 3 months into the divorce process. Ms. Chen reached out through LinkedIn. Her message was brief but warm. She'd heard about the divorce, wondered if I might be interested in a position with her company. They were opening a North American office, needed someone who understood both American business practices and Chinese corporate culture. My unique skill set, she wrote, would be invaluable. I met with her and her team. This time, I spoke Mandarin from the first moment. Her eyes lit up with genuine respect and something else. Maybe a little bit of amusement that I'd fooled everyone at that dinner. I knew, she said in Mandarin at the end of my interview. At the restaurant, the way you held yourself when Rebecca spoke about you. I saw the understanding in your eyes, just for a moment. I am glad you found your strength. They offered me the position. Regional Operations Director, salary quadruple what I'd been making. I accepted. That dinner at Jade Garden was the worst and best night of my life. Worst because I heard truths that shattered my reality. Best because it finally pushed me to act, to stop accepting less than I deserved. Before we end, if this story resonated with you, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support means everything. Thank you for listening.